Hi guys, welcome to the video. Today we are working on sketching, so even if you're a beginner, this is going to be easy to follow and simple steps, ways that you can improve sketching, and these things will not only help sketching but also help like your brushwork and value and different elements of your art as well. So I'm really excited about this one. We were going to do, I wasn't sure this one or the Matryoshkas, but I ended up seeing a tutorial last weekend that got me really excited about this one. So yeah, we're going to start with drawing a triangle. So you can see here that I'm just kind of mapping out with a dot the 3 points of the triangle, and then I am lightly joining those together. Okay, so one thing as well is the way that you hold the pencil. You can see that I am resting my pinky on the page and then kind of resting my hand on that and then holding the pencil back further and just very lightly, using mainly the side. So I'm not really ever using the point of the pencil. I'm more always using the side. So once that's done, we're putting another dot sort of not quite halfway up and to the right, and then we're going to join the top and bottom sort of points to that and to create the 3D pyramid. So I'm just showing you that again. This is kind of the part where it might become a little bit more tricky, but it's very simple. And then you can see that the dot that we just did, we attach a line to the furthest away kind of dot on the bottom left there. So, and then we want to make the shadow. So again, we put a dot somewhere up in the top right hand corner, and then we can join the angles to that. So you can see we did that one at the front, and now we're doing the left front sort of bottom one as well. Okay, so once we have those lines drawn in, we are you can see kind of where the shadow is falling is away from the light. So the light will be coming in the opposite direction, you can see there. And so that means that this back panel here will be, or it's the panel on the right, but it's kind of the back panel furthest away from the light here. So we're going to make that the darkest one here that we can see. And again, I am using the side of my pencil lead here in sort of small circular motions, and we just continue this, and I'm going to do these for you. So we'll do 3 examples and I'll do them in real time so you can see that they don't take a lot of time. I'll walk you through with kind of some tips and tricks as well, and then if you're completely new to any of these techniques or to sketching, and then maybe the second time so maybe watch it and just listen to the tips, and then you can actually just mute it and draw along with it if you want to watch that the second time, and that might help you to sort of figure out how you want to draw them. So you can see there, so we finished the back panel, and then you can also blend it out. So I just did it with my finger there, or you can use a blending stump. So now we're going to work on the other side of the pyramid. So it'll be the left side on to the back there, the one that we can't really see. But what I'm doing here is I'm creating more of a transparent shape. So I'm not creating a solid pyramid. So I want it to look like, the sides are glass and you can see through this shape. So on this side here, we're going to do a lighter value. So again, this is really good to practice the pressure that you are, using. And actually, after we create these shapes, I realized that there might be another exercise that you want to do to kind of practice this before you work on the shapes. So I'll show you that as well. Okay, so now we're working on the shadow, and this is going to be the darkest part of my drawing, at least anyway. So there are a few different ways that you can do these things, and you can use bounce lights and all kinds of things, and there's a lot of different videos on the internet, so you can look through those, but this is just kind of how I am have been kind of doing it. So yeah, I'm going a little bit darker here in the shadow, and that might mean a little bit more pressure with the pencil and also just more layers of the pencil. So I'm going over the same spot several times. This is just a graphicolor, Caran graphicolor. I think it's a HB that I'm using. So and then you can see here that I'm going down the other side of the shadow here over the top of what we've already done to create the sort of back side of that shadow. Again, like, I want this to look transparent, and so we are seeing the shadow the whole way through. So I am thinking about putting some pencil in the shadow here, and you'll see at the in the big examples that I showed at the beginning, I often really enjoy doing this. Last time I did it, I put just the neon yellow from the other side of the graphicolor. This time I'm using the Holbein Ash Rose, and you can see here that I'm just showing you the shadow on the ceiling. It's almost like a theatrical effusion, like the light is creating its own little ballet. And you know, when you look at this and think, I would think more the shadow on the right is how I'd think of doing the shadow, you know, like just the shape of a candle in a shadow. But you can see like that light is creating all kinds of beautiful effects on the wall. So I really like to put that into the shadows and look for those moments. And you can look at something like that by dangling a key or an earring or, you know, something metal in the sun, and just watching how that, you know, how that looks and how that reacts with the light and on the walls. Okay, so there we have the finished piece. You can see that I also used the ash rose around the front and the side. And did I say that that's a little bit like the luminance? I think it's the burnt sienna 10% as well, but it's a little bit creamier, the Holbein one. Okay, so next we're going to do a square. So you can see that I am doing the two lines that are on the same, angle, or that are parallel to each other at the same time. So I do both sides, then I do the top and the bottom, and now I'm doing all of the diagonal lines that lead out from those 3 points, and then I'm just doing the back and the side there. So now we're going to put the shadow out to the side again, and so I realized that with this one I just going to show you the shadow from there, but it's a little bit more complicated, so I kind of redraw this square after we have done this, but I think this is just a simpler way to kind of show you if you haven't ever done anything like this before. So again, we're using this side to be the darkest shadow that we can see. Obviously the back would be darker, but we're gonna, this is the one that we can see. So again, we are just going with these light circular motions and, continuing, like going over and over it. And you can go over it one way and then go over it another way. And then you want to blend it out. And again, like I'm just blending this out with my finger. I haven't really showed it on here. That's probably the last thing that I do, to finish it off. And then we're going in again to the top here, and we are making this a little bit lighter. Okay, so again you can see that I used the Holbein Ash Rose, and I've kind of made a circular shape in the shadow there, like a light is, you know, possibly reflecting off that area. So I'll show you later on in the video that happened off one of the palettes. And yeah, I'm really fascinated with just different shadows, and a shadow can be really, you know, from what you can see from the light there, it can mimic the shape, kind of an elongated version of the shape, but there can also be so many different factors that create really beautiful and unique shadows, and that's something that I really love exploring. And so then again, I'm just adding some of this ash rose to the front, just to give a little bit of dimension and kind of put the shape onto like a table, or, you know, into an actual environment, or, you know, to ground it a little bit, and just to introduce a little bit of colour. So you can do these studies completely in pencil. You can do them in graded pencils, so you could start with a HB and then add like a 2B, a 4B, you know, an 8B, or you know, there's so many different ways that you can just do these simple exercises, and that will kind of also start to help you develop your style, how you like to do things. You know, do you like stronger shadows and stronger shapes, or do you like it softer? And yes, I'm just doing a little bit on the front here as well. You can also do these shapes a lot larger, like you saw at the beginning, the really large circle that took up kind of a double page, one of these double page spreads. But I do recommend starting with a smaller one, because you know, you can finish it. You can see that these are not taking very much time, so you can finish it within about 10 to 20 minutes, and you'll be really, you know, happy with the progress. So the thing that I wanted to show you now with the cube is how to actually draw the 3D cube, so you can get that shadow right. It's pretty similar, but we're just going to kind of draw the first square again how we did. And then we're going to put the diagonal lines on there to begin the 3D shape. And then just basically what we're going to do here at the back is fill in these two outlines, and then just complete the square. So you have, this is going to be the square at the back of the cube, and then we're going to just fill in that bottom left line there, and then you can see that the shadow will actually be coming from that bottom left, the top, like right there where we just drew this in. So that's where the shadow will come from. It doesn't make a huge difference. It's pretty, I think, still a pretty similar you know, shape, but yeah, that's just how to do it. Okay, so the last thing that I want to, so you can see I'm just kind of showing you where the you can kind of gauge where that would be without drawing it in as well. But the last thing that we're going to tackle here is the sphere, and for me this one is the hardest. That's why I left it to last. I think that the triangle is pretty much the easiest one. The cube then, and then the sphere is a little bit different, because you have to create this round shape and then shade it in a way that it actually looks spherical. So you know, the other ones are really good to practice. And the other thing I wanted to show you here is a little trick which I learned a few years ago. I didn't actually know this before, but you can create a rough square here by just, like, you know, dotting the corners, making the square, and then so kind of dividing those lines in half, and then sort of doing a curve from line to line, and then you'll actually create a pretty accurate circle, which is really interesting. And again, that's something you could practice on a whole page, do a page of those, and those are the types of things that will help, you know, with your spatial measurements and kind of figuring those things out as well. So we're just going to start the sphere the same way. You can see that I'm going to end up leaving a kind of a highlight at the top left where the light's kind of hitting it, and then I start to fill in very lightly. I start to fill in the sphere here the same way, but I'm just kind of going to let you watch this process a little bit, because it's a little bit it's just a little bit different the way you build it up, because instead of the dark shadow being on one plane of the object, now the dark is going to blend into the light and create, you're going to build it up like that. So after I do kind of one layer, I like to blend it again just with my finger, and then I will go back in and add darker shadows towards the bottom, and also towards the bottom where the shadow is. You can also leave a little bit of it's not exactly a highlight, but it's called a bounce light. So the bottom at the right there, I'm going to leave a little bit of a softer colouring, and you'll see that. So one thing that you can see is as soon as I blend it out, it becomes such a smoother and nicer transition as well. But what I'm basically doing now is the shadow, and again, we're taking the shape, we're turning it to the right, and we're elongating it. So now this circle becomes an oval that's kind of out to the right of the shape. And again, I am using the ash rose just to put in some different kind of shadows, like there could be something else reflecting in the room. It kind of gives that feeling like maybe there's something metal there, a different kind of sunlight coming through, maybe like a crystal lamp or something like that. And then so we're going to do the shadow darker here, but you can see that I'm also leaving a sliver of light between the shadow and the actual sphere, and you can see that I've also kind of left just a slight bounce light there as well. So Okay, so I actually used the eraser there at the end as well, just to pull out some different lines in different directions, sort of curved lines through the shadow there as well. And that pretty much finishes, finishes the shapes part of the video. So we're going to go into a few different things, something I'm really excited about. But before we do that, I also just want to show you this other little exercise. And again, you could fill a page or two of your sketchbook with exercises like this that will help you not only with your shapes and kind of the gradient of value, but also with your brush strokes, and just all through, like just thinking about the difference and the subtle shifts in hue and in value. So basically you're just drawing a line, a line, just a small line, and then go across a couple of inches and draw another one. And we're going to fill in between these lines. We're going to start out dark, so with the darkest value that you can. Obviously a HB pencil doesn't go very dark, but if you're using something darker, or you can use a gradient of, you can see I'm just showing you, like I'm resting on the book here and got my pencil on the side. So, but you could start with an 8B, 6B, 4B if you wanted to do that. You could do a longer one as well. All of those things will help you with blending and even blending colours when you're doing watercolour and things like that. So yeah, we're going from the darkest value to the lightest value in the middle, and then back out to the darkest value. And so I'm using the pencil one way, and then again in the small circular motions, and then we're going to go back over that. But before we do that, underneath it, we're going to then switch it around, and we're going to go from the very lightest value to the darkest value in the middle, and then back to the lightest. So again, just a really nice way to practice this. So you can see that we're basically cross-hatching back across what we did in the beginning, and just then blending that out, and you can see that you can start to get these beautiful effects. And then as you continue, like you can see that after I'd done a few of these, I worked on this piece here. So basically I'm putting the sphere into a room, into an interior, and combining those things, and also just working on the value and the light and things like that. So the next part of this video, I want to work on that kind of interior. So we're not gonna, you know, do that whole scene, but if you work on the sphere and then you work on, or you know, and the shapes, and then you work on this next part of the video, then you'll end up being able to put those two things together. So we're going to work in here on this kind of exciting project, but I just kind of want to give you a little flip through kind of update so you can see you know, how this sketchbook's coming along. I'm really enjoying it. So this is the Hahnemule Nostalgie, and yeah, so we do have a few videos that will, you know, come up about like those things. I've got kind of placeholders in there for them, and some of those are kind of to create little theatrical settings with like curtains and things like that. So I wanted to create something like this actually after I had seen, so last Friday, Catherine Hastings Co did a tutorial on Instagram, so I will put her name below. And if you're not on Instagram, basically she has like wax seals. She uses like antique, beautiful wax seals, and then she paints them and gilds them, and like adds jewels to them, and just really beautiful. Like the wax seal has now been elevated to fine art. It's really beautiful. So she did a tutorial on, and that's how I actually found her a few weeks ago, I guess, because I'd been looking up the wax seals for the, you know, freebies, and so then I got recommended one of her lives, which actually had her showing these incredible old, like antique, like it's I call them the twee case. It's like a little drawer with a lot of different little metal, you know, the seal part, and you can kind of change those out, and they were so beautiful. So yeah, anyway, last Friday she did a and so you can see here, like these are like, you can make them larger, the shapes larger and things like that. But yeah, she did this tutorial on a gallery letter, and you know, so an artist had written a letter to his wife who couldn't make it to the opening, and then he wrote a letter on one side, and then inside the letter became like the little gallery, and he showed like all these little artworks in there. So yeah, I was really interested in that, and yeah, I thought that we would create something like that. It's more of a sketchbook gallery, and I just think it's a really nice way to again work on the architecture. And so you can see here the ones that I just showed you the page before this were my first ones, and then these ones I you know, tried a little bit harder, took a little bit more time, and this is where I put the neon yellow in the shadows. And yeah, so what was I saying? Yeah, I think this little kind of sketchbook gallery or a flip out, you don't have to do it as a flip out. I like to do that just because of being inspired by watching the you know, Instagram live, but also by I really love, and I think we've talked about this before, like the Scanlan Apparati. I will also link her name below, but she makes just incredible things from marbled paper as well. So yeah, and also if you haven't seen the other video that I posted today, it's just a 10-minute video. It's a really, I guess 15 minutes, but it's a really nice little video. And I want to actually start to create some, like, along with the longer video, just like a little 10-minute one to do like a, you know, technique or a tip. So I really appreciate you guys for the things you've already left there, and they are some really good ideas. Yeah, like I am never really that sure, so because there's a lot of things, you know, already on YouTube. So yeah, I appreciate that, and I will get back to you about all of those as well. Okay, so the video would be way too long to show you this sketch process from start to finish, but I'll show you like how I started. It was just putting the ruler down and then kind of measuring out an inch or an inch and a half, and figuring out where I wanted to put the columns and where I wanted to put the door. And then this is one of the only times I don't really usually measure, but you know, I wanted the lines to be nice and straight, so I used the rule for that. So in the printables you will have some of these kind of architectural things that you can use, and I've also put some on my blog as well, so I will link that below. Some inspiration where you can, you know, start to be inspired, and you'll see from the ones that I posted on my blog that I've kind of combined a few different elements from those. Okay, so on the column here I've used a shell motif at the top, and then acanthus leaves at the side here, and then we have the kind of just this this structure, I don't know what it's called, but this kind of structure on the side of the columns. It's pretty common for the old columns. And then kind of a garland. They have those stone roses in garlands. I really, really love those. And so yeah, again, we do an emblem here at the top of the doorway. So I have a couple of videos about the emblems, and you can see I also used like my kind of signature emblem for the door knock at the handle there. And so what I'm showing you now is I have this Da Vinci brush. I love this brush so much. So it's a beautiful mop, and then it also has an ethograph on the end. So I found this because I was looking for silver point tools, and with silver point you always have to use a ground, and it's a little bit more, you know, a bit more work to organize. But with the ethograph you can actually just write straight on the paper with it. The problem with it is it's very, very light. So but eventually what I like to do is like kind of a grisaille underpainting with the ethograph. So you have these beautiful soft values underneath, and then the watercolor over the top. So yeah, that's just something I've wanted to work on, you know, for quite a while. But so I thought I'd give it a little bit of a practice here and see how that works. And so you can see that like the tip is not pointed, but you can you just lay the ruler down and then kind of see it's going to be a little bit of a width, like a millimeter away where the line sort of hits, if that makes sense. And then I'm just kind of shading in like behind the columns and things like that with the ethograph. Okay, so you can see there we finished the column. Hang on, let me just... I got football on. So, Aussie rules. So, yeah, so now we're going to work on the wall paneling, the plaster walls. And again, you can see that. So if you go back and watch the emblem videos, this will make a little bit more sense, and we sort of go through everything in those two videos in a little bit more depth, and you'll be able to see like the shapes and everything in those videos. But basically I'm just creating these loosely kind of based on acanthus leaves, and just creating you know, one curving one way, one curving another way, and I'm just kind of looking for what will look nice and what will flow. So I'm kind of trying different angles, and you know, one larger, one a little bit smaller. The nice thing about doing these is that there is an element of symmetry, but then there's also some elements that are a little bit more asymmetrical. So like on one side here I am making the roses a little bit like these kind of plaster roses down the side, a little bit longer, and then one side's a little bit shorter. So yeah, I was really excited about this as it was coming together. This was the kind of thing that I wanted to do in this sketchbook. I think when we first started the sketchbook, I was showing you like the curtains and things, and kind of showing that I wanted to do some different interactive things in this sketchbook. So really happy about that. And then this is another little palette that I'm putting together. This one is kind of like a kind of an updated or like an extra plein air one. So with my other one in the Sennelier case, I wanted to add some of my handmade colours. There's also some creamer colours in here, and we will be swatching this one. So you can see kind of there's like the light reflecting there, which we used in the cube. But so I'm just using the big huge mop brush to basically put water down at the minute, and then we're going to use one of my handmade colours that will create this really beautiful moody atmosphere. So what was I saying? I'll be swatching this out when we swatch out the Old Masters palette in a couple of videos. That one's actually been a little bit tricky to finalise, and there's just a couple of tweaks that I want to make before I, you know, swatch it out for you. So, but it is going to be one of the next videos coming up. And yeah, so this one here is a beautiful colour. You can see here, like it's got the granules in it, which I really love. So this is like a Côte d'Azur violet and a mica, so you can use something like that, like a pearlescent white. Unfortunately, I think I was getting the Côte d'Azur violet from Colours of the Iron range, and she, if anyone knows what's happened to her, please let us know, because no one can get hold of her, no one can order, so I'm not really sure there. But yeah, that's the type of kind of like a hematite violet, and you know, a pearl white, something like that you want to use to create this really beautiful colour and atmosphere. Okay, so you can see I'm using my souffle palette to create these shadows, and yeah, I really love using this. And I just also wanted to show you, like, don't be afraid to use them, but I really love using this because it's already creating this sophisticated mix of you know, pigments that create like a really beautiful, like, I don't have to do all that work on my palette. It's already in there. It's going to create a really sumptuous feeling. And yeah, but you can use colors like what we use on the channel, hematite violet, Sylvia from Nibs, like a holographic silver, yeah, and you know, just different things like that, like Lunar Violet from Daniel Smith. I love pairing hematite violet and Lunar Violet. So this one is a beautiful one. This one is like Thulite, which is also really hard to find, but this one is and you can make a colour like this by mixing Potter's Pink with Shell Pink, but this one is pink colour from Creamer, which is a really beautiful one. And yeah, you can see that I'm going to sort of add that into the panels here. And basically this, like, I actually think I really liked it before when it was just the you know, we painted the top of the page and then there was just still like the pencil and the soft grey, and that's kind of how I like it. But you know, and obviously like building up the detail of the architecture, but yeah, I just wanted to play and do different things. So this is where, you know, your sketchbook comes in. And you know, I get a lot of questions about, like, how do you know if you've taken it too far, or how do you know when to stop? That's what your sketchbook is for. You sort of make that decision to either leave it. Sometimes I'll leave things because I want to reference them later and think, you know, how, or you know, think how can I go on from there, like I'm not sure. And sometimes I just want to keep going. So we're going to switch to this little scene which we kind of worked on in the last you know, in the video 2 weeks ago, and yeah, I had sort of tried this. I was just at the kitchen table, but I wanted to go back to it and just kind of do a little bit more of a study of it. So we have left the sketchbook gallery for now. We'll finish that probably in the next video, which will be in 2 Saturdays, and we'll have the matryoshkas along with that, and some mixing. We'll talk about like mixing, and we'll kind of talk about creating a colour palette for the matryoshkas and things. But this not really a whole lot to say. I just kind of did a little pencil study, and then I was just adding in, you know, some watercolour, looking at the shadow, and yeah, just generally wanted to just really put this in my sketchbook because it was just such a nice, kind of visually a nice moment. And I think a lot of times the job of an artist is more to not just to replicate what they see, but also to show you, help you feel the emotion of what they felt. So and you know, that takes a lot of time, and again, like you can see here, like just going through a lot of different stages of how do I want to show that, you know, practicing different aspects of it. So and like I really love very realistic artworks as well, botanical artwork, and I don't know, just beautiful realistic renderings. And you'll always find that the ones that are most successful, there's not only are they realistic, but there's something that they're in their brush strokes or in their line work that is also really beautiful and really mesmerizing. So yeah, you know, that's just kind of so many things to practice, but we just break them up into little chunks, and you know, it becomes a lot easier along the way. So the other thing that I wanted to say was thank you so much for the last shop update. I have been working on those things. And then also there are a couple of packages that I still need to send off, and I do apologize. My brother ended up in the hospital last weekend, my youngest brother, so it's not really something I want to go into on here, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for your patience, and those of you who have messaged me so kindly, and yeah, it's been really lovely, and I really thank you. And there will be some extra goodies in there for you. So yeah, but what I wanted to show you were a couple of different ideas for, you know, either my colors that you've bought or any other colors and, you know, things that you have. So the first thing that I showed you was a high tea palette. So you can look on Etsy or eBay and look up silver butter trays and create your own high tea palette. And then the second thing here is this is a Whisky painter's palette. So these are a little bit more expensive than the black ones that I usually show on here. The black ones are $20 on Amazon, and these ones are the proper ones, like the ones that they came from. They're really high quality, really beautiful. They come with like full pans and half pans, but I chose that one because it didn't have anything in the middle, so I could fit in as many things as I wanted. And yeah, you can see that like I'm trying to put set up a palette there that's going to have some of my ones, even some Roman schmalls. You can, you know, get an antique silver tray and put like just Roman schmalls in, and for and like quite affordable way, you're going to have a really beautiful sumptuous watercolor palette. So yeah, that's just a little bit of a, you know, some watercolor inspiration for you there. And yeah, just me mulling away, and I hope you guys have a really lovely weekend. I think that's it. I'm not sure, has everyone been watching the Johnny Depp trial? I think you can't get away from it here. But yeah, when I heard about the paint, I was like, why do they have paint? And then yeah, anyway, that would be a great show, documentary drama on Johnny Depp the artist, I think. But anyway, have a great weekend, guys, and I will see you in the next video in 2 weeks. Bye.